Welcome, everyone, to our special webinar free conference call on Sunday about the power of prayer to activate the divine potential within you. And this could be an amazing journey for you if you just decide to take the first step, and then the next step, and the next step. None of us get it all at once. It just doesn't happen that way. Whether it's learning how to walk as a baby, learning how to read as a child, learning how to be in a relationship with someone you love, just doesn't all happen on the first day. But we take the first step sincerely. And then from that first step, we move on. We take in, well, you might say, a harvest of understanding. And sometimes that harvest of understanding is intuitive. Sometimes it's just a feeling. Sometimes it's compassion. Sometimes it's just letting go of yourself so that you can open up to the next level of possibility for who you could be if you were just more than you thought you were 5 minutes ago. I know all the time I go through my everyday discovering that I can be something more than I thought I could be in the morning. And that's the way prayer works, when we really, really do it right. It's not about the words. It's not about what we pray for. And it's not about what we set out to get. It's about discovering who we are when we go into a state of sublime communication with the one who created us. Everything in life starts with communication. Everything. Every relationship, every work of art, every score of music, every book, every masterpiece of business, every sales presentation, every day in school, driving on the highway. It's all communication. That's what it is. And not all communication is words. In fact, more likely than not, communication is sensing. Sensing what to do. Intuiting what comes next. Feeling how the other person is likely to respond. Or appropriately expecting what may come as a result of your actions. We're told in the Bible, in the very beginning, God said, "Let there be light." And look what came from that. An entire universe. In the book of John it said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word." He was reinforcing that idea that in divine communication, in communion with the divine, everything is created. Everything. And so, this is the power of prayer. All during the life of Jesus. I call him Yeshua because I like the name. And that's the name he used when he walked on the earth. But I know a lot of you call him Jesus. And that's okay. That's okay because really, what's in a word? It's not the word that has the power. It's the meaning of the word that has the power. And that's the way it is with prayer. The meaning that's in it. The apostles just begged him all the time. They were with him. Master, Lord, teach us how to pray. They knew he would go off to pray, and he would actually go off to pray so he wouldn't be bugged. He could be in silence. He could be alone with God, the Father. He could just relax and undo the whole material part of himself. He could fast, be still, and know that God was alive inside him. When he went into the Garden of Gethsemane to pray the night before the arrest, he broke away from the apostles because he knew they would bug him. They would want to hear what he was praying, and who knows if he prayed any words or any at all. More than likely, it was the passion of his feeling, the passion of his surrender. But actually, we do know that at one point, he did teach them a prayer. And it's the prayer we call the Lord's Prayer. And it's undoubtedly the most prayed prayer in history by people who are Christian or not Christian or not even religious. But they need help from God. And they don't know how to pray, so they'll say that prayer. What's the power of that prayer? I'm going to tell you right now, it's really not the words. The words were very carefully chosen to get the apostles to a point within themselves where they could unite with the spirit of prayer. And there's 4 pivotal places in the prayer where that happens. 4 pivotal places where, more than anything else, we unite simply with the will of God. And, of course, the first one is, thy will be done. And hard as it is for us to actually say that and believe it, the interesting thing is, when we say it, we tend to unite more closely with the will of God. It's really kind of amazing how that happens, because we could go to it and we could be reciting it, and all of a sudden we feel like our will is the will of God. And we can trust that God will support us in our will. Now, perhaps the divine creator will transform it into something more wonderful. But altogether, we are the one who's transformed. And in that transformation, that little moment, that little passage of transformation, that's where prayer takes place. It doesn't take place in the words. It takes place in that union, that point of union. And then the second place is, give us this day our daily bread. Well, what's that about? We don't all eat bread. and today it's kind of a bad word to some of us who have gluten sensitivity, we don't want to equate our nourishment with bread. But, in the days of Jesus, Yeshua, the apostle, bread was the staff of life. And it didn't even literally mean bread then. It could mean fish, could mean anything. It could mean help. It could mean assistance. What it means is nourishment. And we are nourished by so many more things than food. We're nourished by friendship. We're nourished by opportunity. I think more than anything else, we're nourished by faith and hope. Faith and hope give us the ability and the power to draw resources actually from within ourselves. Did you know there's such a thing as breatharians? Yeah, they live on sunlight and breath because they've discovered that everything that they need for their life was given to them in the beginning of their creation. And they live on that strength of faith. There are so many things that nourish us in our life. And bread is just a symbol of all the things that nourish us. When we can contemplate the idea of nourishment and not fixate on it as a paycheck or that it has to be one way or the other, we open ourselves to divine providence. We open ourselves to everything that could be given, everything that could be provided. So you see, he kind of tricks them into, again, having an idea that would take them to a place of receiving and openness. The third thing he gave them was to ask for forgiveness as we forgive others. Well, he didn't make that a long, guilt-ridden, tearful chant of sinfulness or regret or forgiving of others who've harmed you. He kept it really, really simple, and there's a reason for that. All he wanted to do was give them a blank slate. It's as simple as that, a blank slate on which a new potential of life could be written. That's it. Just a blank slate. And last of all, the last miraculous point in that prayer is what I really want to talk to you about today. And it's, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Now, when we say this, are we just praising the Creator? Well, yes, we are. We are indeed, but not just. Because the fact is, the minute we look at the awesomeness of anything, whether it's the night sky or the awesomeness of an electrical storm or the awesomeness of an ocean or the awesomeness of potential in a newborn baby, whenever we look at awesomeness, what happens to us? Our ego dissolves. Our limitations dissolve. Our boundaries dissolve. Our resistance dissolves. And we become humbled by awesomeness, but not in a way that makes us less than, but the kind of humility that we could see in an atom when we know that in all things there are atoms. That little tiny particle is universal to all things. And we begin to see in ourselves that we are a particle inside the awesomeness of God. And we bring that awesomeness into ourselves. And it doesn't matter at all, not one tiny bit, how big or how small we are. It doesn't matter because we're awesome. We can see the awesomeness of God as a mirror that reflects back on us the awesomeness of ourselves. This is the highest point of prayer. And this is what mystics for centuries have gone to the desert or to some other holy place or temple and prayed days and days on end and fasted on end to get rid of all the attachments, all the compulsions, all the sense of neediness and desire and limitation, so they could just know themselves as this tiny, infinitesimal particle of awesomeness that is inside the grandeur of the original and eternal awesomeness of the Creator. Prayer is complete when you can do that. And it's not an easy thing to describe with words. In this last year, we have covered these 4 mystical points of realization that were implanted into the Lord's Prayer to help our students and everybody who ever cares to study this course. And anyone, if you didn't take the courses before, they're still online. They're there for you to get. I just felt that this prayer was too important not to elaborate, not to give you the real, true, mystical understanding. Because like I said, God already knows all of your material needs, but your material needs keep pinning you down. See, this is what happens when we focus upon our material needs, when we focus on what we don't have, when we pray from what hurts. That's the kind of prayer we pray. We pray a limited prayer. And you know what? We even have trouble finding our faith, because when you're hurting, you can't help but wonder, oh Lord, why am I hurting? Why is life being so unfair to me? Why is the miracle not happening that I need to happen? But when you forget about the hurt, when you get beyond the limitation, then you pray the miracle. This is really, really what I teach people in our blessing seminars. A little bit of it on Sundays for everybody. And then for those who come to the blessing seminar in person, it takes 2 days to get around to make this one point. That's how much work it takes to get to this point of surrender, where the students who come let go of everything. They give it all up. They're gone. They are dead to this life and born to immortality. And in that moment, they understand where every miracle comes from. It comes from infinite potential. And getting from the place where you hurt to the place where it doesn't matter is the pathway of prayer. And the culmination point is, for thine is the kingdom and the glory and the praise forever and ever. That's the culmination point. So the culmination point of our study this year is to get to that point. So it's not going to be quite as much text study as before. How could it be? Because that's going to take us right back into our mind. There's going to be a lot of prayer in this course. There's going to be a lot of meditation. There's going to be a lot of self-discovery. And I don't mean self-discovery about what job you should be doing in the world. Self-discovery about how, by letting go of every conflict lets go of you. About how, by letting go of every imperfection lets go of you. None of us are perfect when we're incarnate and going down the bumpy road of the highways in this life, being a human person. We're not meant to be. We're not meant to be. That's our little red schoolhouse. That's where we get to take on challenges so that we can develop compassion, so that we can be part of creation, so that we can add to the complexity of life, and so that we can solve problems for ourselves and others. But that's not where you were meant to live forever. You weren't born out of the problems of life. You were born out of love. And you won't return forever to live inside the problems of life. You're going to return forever to live inside the grace and glory of love. And so this insight into prayer is to help you every day to learn and know who you are, who you really are, a child of God. This is what Jesus, Yeshua, came to teach us. To walk on the earth, to wear sandals on a dirty road, to be hungry, to eat fish and bread, to sit among the lepers, to pass out water, to sleep on a mat, and to die on a cross, to show us that a fully complete human being has the flip side of being an eternal child of God, created in the image of God to be a transcendent person on this earth, filled with grace and glory forever and ever. And when you can be that phrase in the prayer as a mirror reflected upon yourself, then you will know why he gave that prayer to the apostles and why it's sacred and why and how it can transform your life. So if you want to know more about this and have this become something that is a template for the rest of your life to fill your life with grace and glory, I hope you will join us in our last webinar of this season, to be here with us and make this next year the best year of your life.